and all you thought you knew and held dearly silently exploded across the irises of your eyes, and your ears are given over to a confluence of benevolent, ostentatious extravagance from which you may,
Ostentatious.
yeah.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. I'm Andy. The fellow over there is John, and we get together here and we discuss music. John, you're up to bat today. You're going to be offering me a song to go off and listen to, and I'm just jonesing to find out what it is.
Have you heard of a band called The Darkside?
No, only the Superman villain known as Darkside. I'm not familiar with the band.
So you're not up on your Norwegian death metal then? Okay.
Something
So
tells
you're
me
in
you're
for a
bullshit
treat. Okay, great. Well, the song is called Soul Deep.
Soul Deep. Okay. All right. Well, let me go off to the dark side and give this song Soul Deep a go, and I'll come back, let you and the folks at home know what I think. I'm already loving this like clangy guitar. It's like clangy, jangly, and you got this like it's got some funk to it. And the bass is kind of playing this like old school blues bass behind it that's really got a lovely richness to its tone. And I'm wondering where it's going to go from here, or if it's just going to kind of stay in that pocket. Nice shuffling little drum beat too, as you would expect with a kind of funky melody that we've got going on here. Yeah, so far it's sounding pretty fun and engaging. Let's see where it goes over the next. Well, yeah, we got over 6 minutes left, so a lot of places this thing could go. Let's find out where they are. Wow, pedal. This guitar is great. The bass is really rich and it sounds lovely, but I'm wanting a little bit more variation there. I know in this part I get why it's staying in this pocket, but as the song progresses, there could be a little bit more diversity in what the bass is doing, and the drums kind of as well. Like they could come up a little bit in the production. They kind of feel like a little back in the mix and almost slightly stifled. Um, this is still awesome because the guitar work is really like all of this is just the canvas on which the guitar could paint, and the guitar is just killing it. I'm loving listening to this. If just for that alone, I'd be fine with that. The way it weaves in and out of the song, like a Maserati, in and out of lanes of traffic. Then it also kind of flutters around like a moth or a butterfly, sort of like in your immediate area. But it's constantly in and out of the mix and doing some really lovely sonic things. But I wonder if, and this is just my first listen, my first general thoughts. I wonder if too much focus was put on that, or perhaps just enough focus was put on that, and not enough focus was put on some of these other parts in the song. In the singer, like it's just very, for as much energy as bits of this song has, he lacks. I mean, they're like carrying the energy, weight in this song, the guitar and the guitar, but his voice is so very kind of one notish to me, or maybe a little too laid back, given some of the sonic energy you're getting from that guitar. I don't know. Maybe I'm splitting hairs. If different opinion, that's fine. That's just my initial kind of feeling that I get when I'm listening to this. But let's see where we go with these next like 3 minutes and plus. Sounds so good. Love that guitar. I just noticed the very small font under Darkside actually says Guitar Voodoo. And that's what's happening right now. This is some sort of ritualistic practice that we're hearing on the guitar throughout this whole song. And it's also funny because, like, voodoo, I think guitar voodoo, Jimi Hendrix, that's the first thing that comes to mind. And there are shades of, like, the groundwork that Jimmy laid stylistically on the guitar that you can pick up on in this. So I don't know if that was intentional or it's just coincidental. Regardless, it's my observation. paying homage to Sam and Dave? What's going on here? Hold on, I'm coming. Oh, yeah. This is going to warrant another listen because it's one of those songs where I'm kind of of two minds, where I've got some aspects of the song that I thought were fantastic, namely the guitar work. Some of the dynamic work was really interesting too, overall, but there were some issues. The guitar work was fucking fabulous. That alone is enough the price of admission to listen to the song. So I would gladly listen to it again. If it came on, I would not turn it off. I would listen to it, hopefully to find different aspects of it that I can appreciate, like I do the guitar so much. There were some of my issues come with, honestly, and I rarely say this. In fact, it's usually the part that I flock to, the rhythm section in this. And that's kind of two pronged. The drums I felt was for me, more of a production issue. Like a lot of the time when there were flourishes and like he's building it back up to come into like where things are kind of culminating, the drums could be like turned up a bit or struck harder. They did what they were supposed to do, but not to the effect. So I think that they could have been manipulated more to be brought more forward in the mix. The bass I found incredibly same-ish throughout, and you're talking about a near 7-minute song. The tones were rich. They were really nice. It was a good blues bass line. But it just could have used some variation across it to add more, just to add these little bits of variance into the song to not make it seem like a lot of the same that was being decorated by this amazing guitar work to kind of cover that up. That's kind of what it felt like to me. I will listen to this again. I will see if I garner a different perspective on it, or perhaps other aspects of appreciation outside of the ones I already have. Again, I'm not saying this is a bad song, but if I'm going to come on here and tell you what I think, both positive, and which there are plenty of great things that happened throughout the song, and negative things, which I thought, from my own personal perspective, that there were a couple of, I'm gonna call those out and voice my opinion on it. But I take nothing away from the Darkside and this is, I don't know what Guitar Voodoo is, if it's the name of the single, the name of the album, but this seems to be what they wanted to focus on, which was the guitar work. I mean, it's in the name. And they did so with incredible success. I loved the sound of the guitar on this. But it wasn't without some issues for me. And that's okay. That's okay. But I would like to learn more about this song and, where it fits into an album or whether it was a single, and more about this band we've yet to cover on this channel. There are obviously there's lots of talent to be heard in this track, which I can only imagine means that there is plenty of talent to be heard in their other tracks, and I'd like to learn more about them and the band. And in order to do that, I've got to return to John.
Mamma mia, he's back. So, how'd you get on the dark side?
This was an interesting listen. There were aspects of this that I loved a lot, and there were other aspects that left me, in a weird way, like unfulfilled. And I'll get into that a little bit. Oh God, here we go. He's rolling his eyes. No, I'll get into that. I don't know if it was also a product of me, like we did 2 episodes of each of our songs today, so 4 in total. But I listened to 2 of your songs, and I think this might be an issue where, like, my experience with one song is kind of like interfering with my experience of the other, because this track, with the guitar on this track, and I'll go over my notes in detail, but just broadly speaking, the guitar on this track was fucking amazing. I loved it. I loved it so much. But it was the selfless approach and the sort of shared responsibility of the collective that was my experience with the Super Furry Animals track that we did, which was what, Atomic Lust. Was it what, I don't know, that there was more of this teamwork or this cohesion that was happening in that song, and this song felt so guitar reliant that it kind of, after a while, because it was a fairly long track too, it that more of that elongated duration, that 7 minutes or whatever, really allowed me to over time kind of see these, what I would call, sort of chinks in the armor of this song. And I'll get into it as I go over the notes. But there are great, I would listen to the song any day of the week again. I really enjoyed it. But it just was an interesting experience for me, and what I noticed or stood out to me. So things kick off and we get some sweet funky guitar galloping away, and then shortly thereafter we're introduced to some like rolling rhythms provided by the drums and the bass. More on those guys later. The clangy and jangly tones of the guitars are so infectious and have this throwback kind of sound to them that it instantly caught my attention. I loved it. And shortly after the 1 minute marker, the vocals join the mix, and there appears to be some like wah-laden guitar that noodles about before cutting out and then back in throughout the verse. All the while, the bass is rolling under the surface with some shuffling drums. And that wah-soaked guitar cuts in and out of the song at points like a Maserati in and out of traffic, but also at other times like a moth fluttering around your personal space. So it's this interesting way of weaving in and out of the limelight of the song, which it occupies the most of, like, of all the players in this tune. And then after a little drum flourish around the 2:35 mark, the guitar tears up this little jangly lead motif for about 15 seconds before the song shifts back into that sort of rhythm dominated portion. And the guitar creeps its way back into frame, but not with jangly chords or wah-soaked scale work. Instead, we get this like frictious kind of repetitive like strumming that enhances those rhythms. It kind of plays into that. And at the one point is the most like everyone working together part for me, even though that it was such a minute portion of the song. And I have to admit that I'm not overly sold on the less than emphatic vocal delivery at this point. For a song that is called Soul Deep, this vocal delivery was soulless. Because I wanted to, like, you get a funky guitar, you're getting all this. I want to hear some like oomph in the vocal delivery, and it was just so like one notish. So that kind of rubbed me a little bit the wrong way, but it wasn't like enough again for me to turn away from the track or say I don't like it. I do enjoy the song. I will admit though that there are these other bits as well to this. At this point, we're getting pretty deep into this song, and with all the funk allusions and sort of like, doffing of the cap to the bass is so it's rich and it sounds, I like the tone, but it's not doing enough. It's not switching. There's not enough change in the bass line of this song. And the drums, which are a little bit better than the bass in my opinion, have this production quality that's sort of like it's pushed down a little bit. Like I would love the fills and stuff to be more gunshot and less muted shuffle. So I just thought that they could have tinkered with the production of the drums a little bit more, and the bass player at times, at the very least, peppered in a little bit of some bass fills or something like that to give it some funky freshness that I felt it was just lacking. We get treated to these bluesy guitar bends shortly after the 5 minute mark, and I think it's at this point I noticed the words "guitar voodoo" in very thin, smaller font in the thumbnail. And it was an excellent description of what I was hearing on this track, which it says guitar. The guitar was what stood out to me. Also, guitar voodoo, you hear that, you instantly think of Jimi Hendrix, or I would think most people do. And there was kind of some like Jimi Hendrixy stuff happening on the guitar with the wah and just the funky way it was played. So I admired that, but it was almost like they were just telling you from the jump, hey, this is a guitar song. What you're about to embark on is a big, very guitar forward track, which it turned out to be.
Just to say, Guitar Voodoo is the first track on the album. It's the name of another track.
Okay. I even said that. I was like, I have no idea if this is the name of the single, if this is the name of the album. It's just funny that it says that, because to me, I don't know if maybe the whole album kind of has this, sort of format to it, but it was such a guitar forward song that seeing that in that moment made me laugh, because I'm like, it's guitar voodoo, all right. It's definitely not bass voodoo.
And it's a sort of Hendrix sort of homage.
Yes, which is very clear. I mean, by the way,
a lot more than this. It's really, really heavily Hendrix.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, it makes sense. It makes sense. And I was picking up on that just off this track alone. But if you listen to some Jimi Hendrix, there's some great bass work in there, and there's also some really good drum work. And here I was like, God damn it. And if it was a 4-minute song, I don't even know if I would have this gripe. But because it kept going and I kept hearing the same bass line over and over again, I was like, come on, do something a little bit different this time around. And I know, I'm probably splitting hairs, and people were probably rolling their eyes at home, or adjusting their seats, or maybe even the setting on their computer. But forgive me. And again, there's this near screeching guitar just soaked in wah around the 5/10 marker, just after those bends on the strings, before it shifts into more wah laden strumming. And I should say the tone of the bass is great. It sounds so rich and full, but it's just very same-ish at this juncture, and I'm realizing that is a little bit that's letting me down, because there's so much real estate in this 7-minute song. We could have had some variance. And just as we are approaching the 6-minute mark, the vocalist seemingly begins giving a nod to Sam and Dave by echoing the famous refrain, "Hold on, I'm coming." Completely different sound to it, but I mean, you hear those words. If you've heard that song before and you hear it anywhere else, you instantly are taken there. So I just thought that was kind of interesting and made me raise my eyebrow a little bit. All the while, the dynamics gradually start building in intensity, easy for me to say, until it's capped off by this drum flourish and what sounds like a sustained organ, and of course, more of that funky guitar, and we are carried to the end of the track. So to me, it is undeniable that the star of the song is the guitar work. The rhythm section very much does its part, but when I hear a guitar that funky, I want some bass that stands out a bit more and also has some funk in it, and it just kind of lacked that. It was more of like a blues style bass line than a funk style bass line, if that makes sense. And don't get me wrong, the rolling bit that kind of held the rolling bit of the rhythm that kind of held things together while the guitar really stood out and did its thing. I think that was kind of like the blueprint for this song. So if that was what they planned, it's a success. And I would listen to this again. There are things that I would have maybe suggested or done differently that I'm sure they would have laughed me out of the room over, and that's fine. But it's my opinion, and that's what I'm asked to give when I listen to these tracks. So yeah, this was kind of like a B minus C plus track that had bits of it that were like A plus material that I wish they would have worked with to bring up, so it was all this great finished product. Just my personal opinion. Hate me in the comments. It is what it is.
Thank you for that. Obviously, you're listening to this blind for a band that you've never heard of.
Yes.
They are coming from a place that is nowhere near your approach, and there's no way in hell they're doing funky bass line ever.
Yeah.
It's just where they come from, which I'll explain.
But they'll do funky guitar. It's just like the funky bass is the third rail. That's what we're not touching. Okay.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%. But it's just, as I say, the music that they've come from. So I picked this because this is quite an unloved and unremembered sort of splinter of a very, very important band. And it doesn't get as much. And someone actually mentioned a Darkside track Guitar Voodoo in the comments recently, suggesting it, and I'd already penciled this in.
Oh.
So they would be the two tracks that one of which I'll give to you. But Guitar Voodoo is nice and everything, but it's just someone pretending to be Hendrix. You know, that's it.
Shit, I thought that's what I was getting with this for the most part.
Yeah,
So,
this is nowhere near that. I mean, this other
as
one.
ham-handed as okay.
No, the other one's 10 times Hendrix. Yeah, it's a lot more than this one is. I just really like the vibe to this. So I like sort of zoning out to it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
This song does afford you the ability to kind of just zone out and into a trance for sure. I can see that.
yeah. And the sort of, I'd say the root of this isn't really funk, it's more like sort of stacks, which obviously Sam and Dave were involved with to a part as well. But that's in between genres really, and really perhaps nitpicking as well. But the Darkside performed in Rugby, which is in England, 1989 to 1993. Indie rock, space rock, psychedelic rock. This track's from 1990. So the band formed in 89 and were led by Pete Bain, otherwise known as Bassman, who had just left Spaceman 3 before their 1989 album Playing with Fire. Now, I know you've heard of Spaceman 3, but I'm not sure if you've heard any of their tracks or not.
Not that I'm aware of, but I definitely know of Spaceman 3. Yes, you're right.
Yeah. So one of the members, Jason Pierce, they went on to form Spiritualized. And they are seen as a very important sort of band in British indie music, along with, you know, like Jesus and Mary Chain. That sort of sound and noise that they were doing in the late 80s was really important for other stuff to come along afterwards, like shoegaze, etc., etc. Yeah, so where he'd come from and why he was playing, they got someone else in to join the Darkside to do that guitar, but they would not have gone that sort of. It's more this sort of experimenting with reverb and sound and soundscape. He was joined by his former bandmate Sterling Roswell, which isn't even his real name, otherwise known as Roscoe. And he was also in Spaceman 3 for a while. Vocals were initially handled by Nick Hayden, but his departure forced Bain to assume that role. And the vocals are very similar to like Sonic Boom from Spaceman 3. It's that same disinterested, disaffected, oh, I don't know why you're making me sing sort of vocals that you get with that period of British music and that indie music.
Yeah.
Which is just, you know, they carry the no, but it takes both hands. You know, just
yeah, that's a good way of putting it. That's a good way of putting it.
So, members of this short-lived band: Pete Bain, vocals and bass. So he was concentrating so much on doing his disinterested vocals, he couldn't do a proper bass line as well. Kevin Cohen on guitar and Roscoe on drums and organ. The group debuted in April 1990 with the single High Rise Love, which is decent, which was followed by Waiting for the Angels, and then the album All That Noise. I do really like this album. I love the cover as well. Now, there's not a lot on this band either. There's not a lot of love either. But, so I picked up a few bits and pieces here and there. And this is from a magazine online called It's Psychedelic, Baby. And he does a great writer. It was so over the top. I just had to include some of it because it's really funny. No matter how well you think you're prepared, there are some things in life that you're not ready for when they come knocking at your door. I wasn't even ready for the blinding cover art of All That Noise, yet alone the far-flung, hazy musical intoxication that shifted my life into hyperdrive, that jettisoned me beyond the third ring of Saturn and fogged my space mass with multicolored crystalline dimensional mist, with each breath causing me to feel that I was having one of those acid flashbacks that I've been waiting for since the 1960s. That noise, yeah. He likes it.
Yeah, I was going to say, he sounds like he's a fan. He sounds like this went over well with him.
I'm reading between the lines. I think he likes it. So he continues, All That Noise is not something you listen to. It's something that you give yourself over to And once having done that, you sense an elemental truth that your partnership with the world as you knew it has shifted, profoundly changed. That all you thought you knew and held dearly silently exploded across the irises of your eyes, and your ears are given over to a confluence of benevolent, ostentatious extravagance from which you may,
Ostentatious.
yeah, for which
That's
you
just like
may
because he's
surely
being so
return,
ostentatious.
but you will never be the same person again. Yeah, that's
That's so over the top.
I know it's great, isn't it?
Oh my
You
god.
see why I had to include it. It's brilliant. There's a blog called Can't Explain. The guy's written a review here, which is probably a bit more even-handed. He says the songs are primitive, real simple Simon Metapyman, involving rudimentary hooks with electric guitar, bass, drum kit, occasional keyboard, and
Yeah.
subtle studio witchery. The main point is the mood first, which is somber, quivering towards ecstasy, and then second, all the power of the electric guitar inflecting it. The moods are deepened with thoroughly blistering breaks and textures, stinging little solos, wah-wah notes, and tender pouts of feedback. The singer is flat and restrained, but gets the job done nonetheless, sounding slightly put out, which also suits the mood. Indeed, there's a muffled, breathless quality to the whole thing. It sounds like it was recorded in a chamber from which half the oxygen has been pumped out. I have to say, though, amazingly, it has enduring charms. The songwriting understands pop fundamentals just enough, and the players never forget the power of the studio and the electric guitar. Its sweet sounds fill a room so nicely for the 40 minutes it lasts that I often play it back to back.
No, I
That's
think
more, he's accepting the faults and he's saying the strong
yeah,
points as well.
very fair assessment of the music. I would totally agree with that synopsis.
Just two more quickly. So rate your music. One of the viewers and users on there has said it's like walking through a city that's barely towing the line between Saturday night parties and charismatic Pentecostal spectacle. The Darkside have more of a sense of beauty than almost any other psych band of the time. The other side of this coin is the album doesn't really grab you on first listen the way that other psych bands around that time did, using gimmicks. Osric Tentacles, he mentions. You've got to find a reason to stay at this particular party, and I decided to stay because of the guitar tones and noodling. During the more velvety songs, you realise you're never getting out of this party. The roof has been lifted off and no one noticed. This album is absolutely amazing, and an alembic to restore your soul's pH level. Again, fairly
No,
more
no, I agree with a lot of what was said there.
Yeah, so not about Third Ring of Saturn. Okay.
Thank God.
But,
Yeah, no.
I mean, Old Music gave it a stinker, saying that the album's rubbish, and this song in particular was embarrassing. And they said it was trying to be James Brown because they didn't know the lyrics were from Sam and Dave. It just makes it more embarrassing for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see all arguments. You like what you like.
It's
So
just they're the gall to reference soul in the name of this song, and then that is your vocal delivery. Is just a little ironic, I guess, is one way of you could put it. But yeah, it kind of made me laugh. Like, what?
Yeah, yeah. Nowhere on the internet are the lyrics to the song. So I've listened and I've got look a lot like complicated. There's a few words where the wah impinges on his fervent delivery because it's so, so I'll guess a couple of words, but apart from that, I'm fairly confident. Early intake for an aeroplane. Ain't got time to take a fast train. She's going to Hollywood. She's taking the ride to Hollywood. Bright lights, big city, goes to my baby's head. Bright lights, big city, goes to my baby's head. Something's got a hold on me. I said something's got a hold on me. It's too big to hide and it can't be denied. Well, love is a river running so deep. Train on a line. There's a train on the line. There's a train on the line. Get your soul right in this world. Get your soul right in this world. I hear a train a coming. I hear the bells are chiming. I hear a train a coming. I hear the bells are chiming. And then he says twice, Cinnamon. I think it's cinnamon. It's not cinnamon, the spice. Cinnamon. Me and my friends, we've gone into town. Everywhere we go, they turn us down. Land of the free, home of the brave. I'm not sure about this, but something about it sounds like karma, but it isn't. Change it by the bourgeoisie. Well, I love the life. Well, I live the life I love, and I love the life I live. I live the life I love, and I love the life I will live. I'm sitting on top of the world, which she repeats 4 times. Hold on, I'm coming. 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 And then we get funky organ for about 20 seconds, and that's it.
Yeah.
So this really is I see this really as an exercise, a jam. The vocals are almost cliches, which you just put in, passion, put in, of things you might say. They are just basically wanting to jam and give the guy room to do his shit.
Yeah, you said jam, and I remember thinking as I was listening to this is almost jam bandy, like aspects of this song where they'd really like just ride on a part.
But you've got a real structure there with bass and drums, just
Yeah,
two straight rails.
yeah,
Not do a damn thing, and then he's doing, he's skipping away merrily, doing whatever
yes,
he likes.
yes. And if there had been a little bit more, variance in what the rhythm section was doing, it would have really sounded like the jam band scene from over here, where you get bands like Mo or the String Cheese Incident, and bands like that, where it's like, oh wow, there's just, which I love. I love music like that. So the aspect of
Yeah,
them just jamming out, and letting the guitar have his fun and sounding great while doing it, that didn't turn me away. It was just a little bit, 7 minutes of pretty much the same bass line the whole way through. Is like, come on, man. But amazing guitar work. Like I said, I would happily listen to this track again. It's not like I don't like it.
yes, I say they come from a place of this sort of at that time modern approach to psychedelic rock, as it were,
Yeah.
which then morphed into other things like shoegaze. So that's where they're approaching it from, right? So coming from a different,
Yeah.
completely different viewpoint. And so that's what they would see as the importance. And
Mhm.
that's probably why it didn't last long. So Roscoe, after this, Roscoe moved to keyboards. The group recruited Craig Wagstaff, who they'd known since they were in Spaceman 3. The band's next release was a mail order album called Psychedelic Seas Suburbia, which was a live album you could only get through the post.
Oh wow.
And then the following year, they did an EP, Always Pleasure, and then their second studio album, Melomania, in 1992. The guitarist who did his great job, Kevin Cohen, departed after that album. Bain then assumed guitar duties for the EP Mayhem to Meditate, which I've not heard. And when their record label, Situation 2, rejected demos for the third album, the band disintegrated.
Mm.
Since the band split, Bain has recorded several albums under the Alpha Stone name and guested on several of former bandmate Sonic Boom, Peter Kember, EAR albums. Roscoe has issued a solo album, Ubik, under his assumed name of Sterling Roswell. I can't remember what his real name is. Probably some variation on that. So yeah, that's a sort of brief life of the Darkside. I think it's quite interesting, a bit different, certainly different from Spaceman 3. And I think 1990, there wasn't much sounding like this around.
Mm.
It's a throwback, and this song in particular is a throwback. There's almost some songs on here which, with a bit of sprucing up, could almost go into Manchester if you then gave it a funky beat.
Uh-huh.
That's the melody side of it. But it's some really good songs on it. I like it. I like both albums actually.
Yeah, no. It was a aspects of it that were outstanding to me. And again, I would give this a listen. Again, no questions asked. In fact, I think it would only be fair to at this point. But I do what you just alluded to, like if they had just turned a little bit this way, they would have ended up in Manchester. And if they had done those things, I probably would have found the track more enjoyable. If the funk transcended the guitar and matriculated its way over to the other aspects of the band as a whole, I probably would have liked it all that much more. So, but
I
it
don't,
was still a decent track.
yeah, I don't really know the guys, the members of this band and their career that well. But I would suggest this is probably a psychedelic song, which has then got some zhuzhing up via stacks or whatever, um, from people who don't necessarily know a whole lot about that music. That's what it sounds like to me. And
Yeah.
that's why you got the ding 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 ding, and that's about it in terms of
Mhm.
that. That's what my guess would be, without being detrimental to them, but they're just trying something which they probably don't have a deep knowledge of, which is
Mhm.
fair enough.
Yeah.
So that's why he got a boring bass.
Yeah, it wasn't even that boring the first 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It was just like, holy shit, this is the sum and total of what you're gonna do here, huh? All right.
As Marquis Smith says, it's not repetition, it's precision. Right, I should wrap things up. Thanks for listening to this, Andy.
Yeah, thanks for offering it up.
Folks out there, tell us what you think. Should we with the Darkside? I know at least one or two of you are, because someone's already mentioned them. Tell us what you think of this track. If you like this, please hit the like button. If you like all that guitar-y goodness. If you're unsatisfied by the bass work, keep your goddamn mouth shut.
I'll speak for all of us.
Only joking, only joking. Please pop something in the comments. Tell us what you think. We'd love to hear from you about this track or any other Darkside stuff. The aforementioned Guitar Voodoo usually gets all the roses, but there's other good stuff on there as well. But yeah, whatever you like to drop, please do. We love hearing from you. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. Help support this channel as we grow and get bigger and stronger, and soon we'll be ready for the regionals. I'm looking forward to that. That being said, thanks so much for watching, and we will see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.